And we're rolling.
All right. Hi, everybody. This is me and my friend Matthew, and the name of this podcast is going to be Double Take. Matthew, do you want to introduce yourself?
Uh, my name is Matthew Jones. I'm a senior at UMKC. Uh, I'm a little bit sick right now, so I don't usually sound like this, but I love watching movies. I love talking about movies. And Emma writes some of the best movie reviews that I've ever seen, so I was really excited to do this podcast with her and hear her thoughts on a lot of films and talk about things that I usually don't get the chance to talk about with a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm really excited to be able to just talk in depth about movies because I really like doing it. And if I wasn't constrained by time, I would just talk forever. Um, what are some of like your favorite genres of movies?
I always really liked comedy and horror movies just because I love the way movies make me feel, and I feel like humor and fear are some of like the easiest, like the most accessible emotions.
Yeah.
So when you have a movie that's able to do that well, it like pulls you in more than like any other type of media, I feel like. And that's what I really appreciate about those movies. Comedies nowadays are it's kind of rare to find a good one. Um, but there's like so many great ones looking back that just like get better with age and change their meaning over time. And then I feel like horror is probably like the best, most innovative genre today with like studios like A24 and directors like Jordan Peele and Ari Aster,
Yes.
like constantly just like elevating the genre because 20 years ago horror was just slasher films, kind of pointless, like blood and gore. A lot of people didn't think it had much artistic value, and now these are like a lot of people in our generation's like favorite movies.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, we could cut this probably, but would you mind moving just a little bit closer? I
Yeah.
just want to make sure it picks up your voice.
Yeah.
Do you want to repeat the question?
What about you?
I think my favorite genre is definitely like anything animation. I'm very passionate about cartoons and animation. Um, you know, but when it comes to live action movies, I don't feel like I have any specific like interests, like I have certain types of movies I'll definitely avoid, but like I feel like I have a wide range of live action movies I can enjoy. But if it's animated, you've immediately got me interested because I'm very interested in animation as an art form. Um, what kind of aspects of a film to you are most important? Like, how do you know a film is doing its job right?
I think the setting and aesthetic is like the most important part of any film. I think a director that's able to like create their own personalized like view of the world and like really bring people in that medium. Uh, I think that's like one of the best ways to get people like entranced in a film. I feel like Tim Burton used to do that really well.
Used to.
He used to, and I've taken a couple film classes, and like I'm realizing now that he was like really inspired by like the German like impressionist and surreal like films of the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And then like now when I look at like the Batman, I know it's not like the characters that make that movie like great. It's like the sets and like the whole like world he creates that feels like it's futuristic yet like stuck in the past at the same time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that's interesting. Because I feel like I definitely enjoy movies with like a really good atmosphere and a good setting that really pull you in.
Yeah.
Um,
Like for animated, I feel like Studio Ghibli does that like
yeah,
incredibly well. Like they always create like the cutest, most like personable like worlds that are like so self-contained but like just like full of like everything that makes a movie like interesting.
yeah. But I think what really makes Studio Ghibli and what's most important to me in a movie is, the characters and the writing. That for me, that's like the crux.
Yeah.
Like if your movie, it looks shit, I might still like it if the characters are good, and if I
Yeah.
can tell it has some heart behind it with the writing and the characters.
I think
Um,
apart is a really good way to put it, because like you can definitely tell when a project has like passion put onto it or put into it, whether than it's just like a soulless money grab.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, now that we've kind of introduced ourselves, we have two movies that we want to talk about today. And since it's March, we thought maybe we would theme it around, like St. Patrick's Day. It's March, so it makes sense. And I think both of them are really interesting, so I hope you stick around and listen to them. Matthew, do you want to talk about your film first, or should I go first?
Yeah, I certainly don't want to go after you. Let's save the best for last. The movie I watched was The Banshees of Inishiren. Came out earlier this year. It's a film that takes place in the early 1920s and 30s, in kind of an island that's on the outskirts, not necessarily in the mainland, and most of the people there are either like relics of an older time, or they're just like aimless people that like don't know what they're doing with their life. And while the movie does have like really good writing and characters, I think a big part of this movie that keeps it interesting is how well the setting and the aesthetics are, because even though the movie is like almost entirely dialogue, it's so like heavily concentrated on like each shot that the characters are having conversation in. There's so much depth that you can see like miles behind them, like rolling hills, and there's houses on those hills, and people are like walking goats, and somebody's like fishing in the bottom left of the corner. Usually when you have like a dialogue heavy movie, like a wider aspect ratio like that is harder to keep interesting. I feel like that aspect ratio is a lot better used for like action movies or like nature documentaries, when there's so much detail that you want to like really put as much things as you can in. But the way that they were able to put in detail but sparsely enough that it didn't interfere with the writing or the character's arc, it was just like a perfect balance. Sorry, that was kind of me getting sidetracked.
No, I don't mind.
So basically the film is about two men, and one of them is a musician and the other one is a sheep farmer, and they're best friends. They see each other every day, and the only thing they do is have a couple beers at the pub and talk to do about nothing, basically. Yeah. And after years of this, the older musician finally decides that he's wasting his life continuing this friendship, and that it's necessary for him to stop talking to this person completely and focus on creating like songs that he'll be remembered for. And usually that seems like, if somebody doesn't want to be your friend, that's like, oh, if you're grown up, that's not a big deal. But the way the setting is made, and you see how big yet like sparsely populated this island is, that like one person may be like all somebody has.
Oh, yeah.
And it really makes you question like the value of like friendships and relationships in your life, and whether or not you value that person for their time and what they give for you, or just for their companionship.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting, idea. The idea of like rejecting like a friendship in order to focus on, whether it's like a creative pursuit like music, or like, just work. Because listen, I would never go that far, but I've thought about it in the past, like, oh, I'm just kind of wasting my time hanging out with my friends. I got so much work to do, and that kind of thing. I don't really know if that's the angle the movie was going for. You told me before, it seems like there's like a little bit more going on than just that.
Well, I definitely feel like it falls into that common like character archetype, where it's, does somebody want to pursue greatness, or do they want to pursue like goodness? I guess is a way to put it. And I think that there are more things going on with this. Like there's metaphors for the Irish Civil War and how like the two men like represent like different sides of the country, and how it's like even though like they've been friends forever and they known each other, like they like suddenly overnight like just go to war. And you definitely like see some of the consequences of that, like people die, blood is shed in a number of different ways. And it's interesting to see how those consequences affect people in a relationship that are coming out of one, because even though they're not friends anymore, that's still a unique relationship to them that they have to get used to. And it comes with their own caveats, because they, live right next to each other. They interact with each other every day, but now they have to like completely change their way of life to better suit the other person.
I really like the idea of this movie. Not enough movies are just about like exploring like just friendships, because there's so much like complexity and like drama and things you can do with that. With the backdrop of the Irish Civil War, I'm sure that like adds a whole new layer. And I mean, just watching the trailer, it looks like a visually beautiful movie. It's definitely something I'm probably going to be watching.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. Anybody that's like a movie buff, I think will really enjoy it. If you're a person that probably like doesn't have a favorite director, I don't think you would necessarily like this movie very much.
I mean, I will say, my mom and dad watched it. They don't listen. They watch like Love Is Blind and 90 Day Fiance, but they loved it. They loved it. So I think it's a movie that maybe anybody can enjoy, or maybe it was just my parents are weird. I don't know.
It might be, it's like so well made. It might be like highly accessible. I feel like a lot of people like get turned off by dialogue heavy movies. But maybe because they're into like reality shows and like that's also dialogue heavy. Like, I guess there's like definitely two different camps of people. Like reality shows are dialogue heavy and focus on a story, and then action movies and like Marvel is just all visuals per se.
What do you think about the pacing of the movie?
I think it's paced really well. It's like every scene makes sense and it leads directly to another. It doesn't really drag, but it encapsulates a lot of different characters and different, like it grows a number of different characters in related ways that don't feel forced at all. And I think because the town is so small, it was like, that it was like easier for them to do it, because you can create like this perfect story in which all these characters like living this close to each other like affects each other in some way.
Yeah, it makes the stakes a lot higher.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about? Like, who's your favorite character? Or the most interesting character?
I think my favorite character is Colin Farrell's sister. He's the sheep farmer who wants to be friends with the musician, but is like kind of has his back turned on him. But his sister has so much personality, and she's like really smart, so she sees everything as going on, what it is, and she kind of calls everybody out, and eventually she just gets like sick of everybody and leaves, and she like tries to get Colin Farrell's character to come with her, and I don't know, she just seemed like the most headstrong, like reasonable, like that's the character you want to root for. They make all the right choices and decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay.
Do you know much about the Irish Civil War?
Not really.
I I was wondering because, oh God, I'm going to like expose how uninformed I am. I want to learn more about Irish history. I know that there's always been a big conflict between like North Ireland
and
and
South Ireland.
Yeah.
It's like Scotland and the UK. I don't know.
We could probably look it up.
I think like Southern Ireland wants independence and Northern Ireland is like really heavily a part of like Great Britain.
Yeah.
And I think that they had like a lot of bad like battles or like history with each other over time, so it's bad blood.
I think Britain did a lot of real bad stuff to Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, who didn't they do a lot of bad stuff to?
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that it continued on for decades, and even in the 90s there's like the IRA, which like all sorts of car bombings and terrorist attacks would happen.
Wow.
Like because of that issue still. So I don't know, I think that I would like to watch more movies that probably talk a little bit more about the symbolic significance of the Irish Civil War. I feel like the Banshees at Inisherin, like, it was like kind of like mentioned like briefly symbolically, but it wasn't one of the main points. I felt like.
Yeah, it's from the sounds of it. It sounds like a more like personal kind of movie, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how I feel about rating movies like on a scale, but like.
I rated this movie 4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah. What was it missing to get the 5 stars?
I think. Wow. Okay. I think it's closer to a 4.5 than a 3.5. I don't think it was like missing anything per se. I think that like the symbolic part of the Irish Civil War like wasn't done super well. I felt like it was kind of like briefly, it's like, oh, we're brothers, now we're fighting, just like this thing. Yeah. And it was like, that's all they really said, and I was like, okay, like, you didn't really have to say anything at all. That was a little thing, though. I liked it a lot, but it didn't, like, really wow me. I only, 5 out of 5, I like rarely give out. That's like when a movie for me is like hits every single spot in me, and I certainly don't think my 5 out of 5 is gonna be somebody else's. I think if somebody rated this movie 5 out of 5, like I would definitely respect that.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanna say about the movie?
I think I talked about enough. I want to hear about your movies.
Okay. I'm kind of excited, guys. This is a really good movie. This, for me, was a 5 out of 5. I have to say it right now. So the film I watched is called The Secret of Kells, and it was released a while ago. It was way back in 2009, and it began production, I believe, in 1999. It's an animated fantasy film from the Irish animation studio Cartoon Saloon, and this was their first movie ever. It had a budget of only $8 million, and for me, that's like insane to think about, because there are movies coming out that, I don't know, maybe cost even like billions of dollars, and I'm like, I'm falling asleep watching this. This is like, I feel nothing. But this movie is simply beautiful. I mean, it has beautiful visuals. I guess I'll just go to the visuals first, just to get that out of the way. They're really top notch. All the way through, the movie kind of experiments with different visual styles. Sometimes the film adopts like a more cartoony style. I think you mentioned it was kind of like Samurai Jack at some points.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of that in certain scenes, especially with all the arrows flying through the air.
Yeah.
It's classic Samurai Jack.
Yeah. And then other times, when the main character is like thinking, he likes to draw. So he'll draw on tablets and chalk, and you can kind of see the animations of what he's drawing. But other times, the movie is just kind of a tapestry of like these Celtic spirals and borders, like really beautiful backgrounds that kind of play with like false perspective. It kind of reminds me of mandala art with its like really intricate geometric shapes. It's kind of like hypnotizing. Like it, it's hard to explain because there's a lot going on in one scene. You know, it might be the forest and you see the towering trees and the sun peeking through the background in leaves, and there are butterflies flying through the air, and the characters are climbing up the trees. And it sounds like it would be overwhelming, but it just meshes together to make this really mesmerizing scene. It's so beautiful.
From what you showed me, the couple scenes I saw, it definitely seemed like every frame was a painting.
Yeah.
That was definitely the philosophy they
Yeah, I think
subscribed to.
that's accurate. And I read somewhere before we started that Cartoon Saloon they were inspired by two kind of different things, which is The Thief and the Cobbler. I don't know if you've heard of that movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh god, that movie has a tortured past, but you can kind of see the similarities. It has a very specific animation style, which you can kind of see reflected in this movie. And they were also inspired actually by Ghibli, because they wanted, I think, to do for like Irish culture what Ghibli movies did for Japanese culture. So they wanted their movies to be an homage to Irish culture. Sorry guys, I'm just checking where I'm at. I do not want to ramble too much. Here, if you want to keep track of how long I'm going. I guess just talking about an overview of the movie. The synopsis that we're kind of working with is it takes place in an Irish abbey called Kells. And the main character is a little boy, maybe 10 years old, called Brendan. And his uncle, the abbot, is preoccupied with like reinforcing these walls to protect the abbey from Norsemen and Vikings, and I think pagans. Like, he's very firm in his religious beliefs. He doesn't want anybody coming in to threaten it, which is interesting because when Brendan finally gets the courage to venture into the forest outside the walls, there's all kinds of like references to like pre-Christianity pagan mythology, like specifically the character Aisling, who's a fairy, and she's kind of supposed to be based on this supernatural race in Irish mythology called the Tuatha De Danann. I'm not sure if I said that right, but they're supposed to be one of Ireland's first tribes, and they're like a race of these like magic creatures. But I think the overarching theme we get from this movie is just about like embracing creative discovery. And the reason it's about that is because, going back to the synopsis, so Brendan is recruited by this other monk named Brother Aidan to try and write a book called the Book of Kells. But the abbot doesn't want them to work on the book because he says the wall is more important. We need to protect our people. But Brother Aidan is kind of more of the mindset of, you know, we can give people hope through writing this book and its beautiful illustrations. It will inspire people. I think the term they used was bring light from darkness, I think. But the abbot, he forbids it, and it leads to a lot of conflict between the abbot, Brother Aidan, and Brendan, who's kind of caught in the middle of it because he has these two adults who both want him to do different things. But eventually, Brendan does kind of do what Aidan wants to, and with his guidance, he learns how to draw and read and like write the Book of Kells, and it's really beautiful. I'm gonna try not to spoil too much, but there is some shockingly brutal stuff that happens at the end, especially with the Vikings. They're almost portrayed like, not like people, but like beasts. And when they attack, it's really scary. There's no blood, but the way the color palette is with like the white falling snow, and it's like rushing, like quiet. And then there's crows cawing mixed with the screaming of people, all with a backdrop of like red and the black of the Vikings on the white snow. It's just like horrifying, but in a really beautiful way. but I don't want to have the last note of my thoughts of this movie be like that violent scene, because overall this movie is just beautiful, and it left me with a tear in my eye. It's just a beautiful homage, I think, to Irish culture. And it tells a story that's accessible to really all viewers, you know? Like I said, it's about embracing creative discovery even during like the darkest times of life. I'm so sorry, I've just been rambling.
No, I think that was really exciting to hear. You gave a great synopsis of the movie. I really like I know you're saying you really appreciate movies with great characters and writing in it, and I've always loved classic dilemmas where you have like a young protagonist that doesn't know what the right choice is,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily like clear to the viewer either. I think that like always resonates with me, because like who hasn't felt that as a kid, you know,
Yeah,
when you have like two people who you both trust and they want you to do different things.
Yeah.
And I think that theme is a really strong one in like character heavy movies.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like today, I feel like this film is even more relevant because I mean, there are always scary things like threatening our future. Like, I don't know, like just insert current event like here. Like, it's all scary things are always happening.
It's always,
Yeah.
there's something new like every week, it seems like.
Yeah, but you know, art and creative discovery and imagination is a way to fight back. You know, you don't want to lose that childlike wonder. You know, even though all these dark things surround you, and I think that's really what the movie was talking about.
Yeah, I think that's great. The way some people are able to never lose that like view of the world that they had as a child.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely like a lot different than it is when you're an adult for most people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sadly.
So what I think would kind of be interesting is if you want to maybe like compare and contrast like our movies, because I think it also kind of reflects, I feel like, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like it kind of represents like maybe a difference in like the tastes and the kind of movies we go for, you know?
Yeah, I love animation too. Like
Mm-hmm.
last night I fell asleep to Adventure Time just
Yay.
because I like hadn't seen that in forever and kept waking me up every 5 minutes with how hard I was laughing. But I honestly probably like your movie a little bit better, just because I think that it had like a really nice blend of not only great visuals but also great storytelling. And while I like dialogue heavy movies, I usually like them when they're like really funny and not as serious. But I think that our movies, I don't know, like they feel similar, but
Yeah.
in really different ways.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like maybe a similarity that I kind of feel like might be present, and I don't know because I haven't watched yours yet, but I'm going to, is maybe they both kind of have a presence of like, I know they're not like family, but like tension between like people who love each other. Like the Abbott and Brendan, the Abbott is trying to help Brendan, and he does love him, you can tell, but it just doesn't work, and he just ends up like hurting him and restricting him, and it all falls apart. And I don't know, how would you say
That definitely is a genre. It's like love is painful.
yeah.
Every Charlie Kaufman movie. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the Love is Painful movies are breakup movies, and mine was definitely like a breakup between friends. Yours, I don't know, do you think yours was like a breakup movie in any way, or?
Not really. I feel like it was more, I don't even know how to pin it down. I feel like it was like maybe an homage to the Book of Kells, which is in case you guys didn't know, I'm so sorry. The Book of Kells is a real thing. Like, you can Google it. It's a book. I felt like that's kind of more what it Sorry, I feel like that's more like what it was. Um, but you know what? I was kind of thinking it would be cool if, and I know like we're both busy, but why don't we both like watch these movies and come back?
Yeah.
And then we can have like an even better discussion.
I am really excited for your movie.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad. I hope you like it.
You hyped it up a lot better than I did mine, that's for sure.
Oh, I hope I didn't hype it up too much.
What else are you excited for movie-wise? Are you gonna watch the new episode of The Last of Us tonight?
I'm so behind. I need to like start actually watching it.
You haven't seen it yet?
No.
Oh wow. It's one of those movies that, or not movie, it's one of those TV shows that it's like a phenomenon because everybody is talking about it. It draws everybody in, everybody has an opinion. And I feel like zombie themed like media always does a good job of that whenever people are depressed. I think whenever people have like little hope about like the way things are going in the world and they start to like daydream like how things could get better even if everything was way worse, because that's how it like feels sometimes. I think that's when zombies get really popular. I know The Walking Dead, didn't that get popular like during like 2008 when, like the second Great Recession happened?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I feel like The Last of Us is definitely way better than any other zombie show I've seen, just in the depth of like the characters and emotions and so many different like ideas that it like talks about in such like a brutal like realistic way.
Interesting. Okay, I gotta be transparent. I didn't play the game, but I did like, you know how on YouTube they have like all the like cutscenes, like so it's like a movie. I watched that and I really liked it. So like I'm curious, have you played the video game? Do you think
I played the video game when it first came out. I was was that like 14 or 13?
Oh god.
2013, 2014. I was like, I saw it. I had played Naughty Dog's game before, the Nathan Drake like Uncharted games, and I was like, oh wow, this one looks really cool. And I remember seeing like the trailers at like E3 before it came out, and it was just like nothing I'd ever seen before. And I played it, and it was like my favorite game for a long time. I think that it had like the best story of any game. What really struck me is how it was like, I remember the year I played that game, I liked the story in the game better than any movie I had seen.
Wow.
I was like, could they give Oscars to games? I remember that's what I was thinking at the time, just because there was so much like depth in the emotions each character, and like they went on such a huge journey. Like the story in the game, I think it covers like almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
But nothing feels drawn out at all. There's just so much that these characters go through. And it's just like part of the world.
How do you think the video game compares to like the show so far?
So it's interesting. I think that because it's a video game, they lean a lot more into the violence. Like of course, like if you're gonna move the plot along in the video game, you have to kill like 30 bad guys and 20 zombies before, you know, or like find your way to sneak around them. Obviously, in the show, they can't do that and just have Pedro Pascal like murdering people left and right, because the story is so much more focused about emotions than like the blood and gore. But in the game, they didn't, because they were able to balance the gameplay into the story, they took that in and they made Joel a more violent character in the game as a result. So like when you saw his interactions with people, like one of the scenes, Joel and Ellie are like driving into a city, and there's somebody in the street that's like asking for the help, like pretending to be like dying. And in the video game, Ellie's like, are we gonna stop and help him? And he's like, oh, he ain't even hurt, and he just speeds on the gas and like runs him over, and then they get in this all-out war. But in the show, Pedro Pascal, he doesn't he's like, oh, he doesn't say anything like that. He's more forgiving and merciful and just like tired. And it really leans into the fact more that he's like afraid of like losing another person that he like can't protect than it is with him like dealing with his own like personal demons. Which I think that version of Joel that was in the game worked better for the game, and I think that the version of Joel that's in the TV show works better for the TV show.
Yeah. From what you're saying, it sounds like it's a pretty natural like transition, you know?
Yeah, like they made the right decision that was important, and they did it in a way that was the best decision for the story.
All right.
Do you want to talk about movies for next time? Maybe go on this random movie generator?
Yeah, sure. Are we cutting this part out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. What kind of genre do you want to look at for next time? Let's pick an anime movie every time, and then a random one.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, ew, no.
Is that bad?
Oh, it's awful.
Studio Ghibli? I've never heard of this.
It's so bad. I've read the Earthsea books. That movie is atrocious.
Why have I never seen it? I like
because it sucks so bad. They repressed it. They don't want you to know about it because it sucks.
I swear to God, like I've gone through the Studio Ghibli tab on HBO Max so many times and I haven't seen this.
It's so bad.
Okay. Randomize again. Pro-Man?
Oh, yeah, I've heard good things about that movie.
What is it?
It's a movie. That's all I really know.
2019. HBO Max. All right, you want to watch Pro-Man?
Are we both gonna watch the same thing, or?
I mean, it's on HBO Max. I can watch it.
I thought we were gonna.
Oh, are we giving movies for each other?
Yeah, like recommending each other movies.
We can do that too. This can just be something extra, maybe.
Yeah. What theme should we go with next month, or whenever we do another episode?
Do you want me to pause this?
Yeah.
So I think that was a great first episode, Double Take. I really enjoyed hearing what you had to say about the Book of Kells. I'm really excited to watch it and talk a little bit more about it next time. Maybe you can get caught up on The Last of Us and give me a good movie recommendation. I think we talked about Raising Arizona for you, maybe. That's one of my favorite movies. You were maybe going to give me something like for April Fools, trying to get the episode out by then. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. Shall we do it, or did we just do it?
Oh, I thought that was us doing it.
Oh, we recording?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't see the bars go.
That was a great first episode. I look forward to watching the Book of Kells. I really enjoyed to hear everything you had to say about it. Hopefully for next time we can watch some April Fool's type movies. Maybe you'll be a little bit caught up on The Last of Us. We could talk about that too.
Yeah. I'm really excited to watch Raising Arizona. It looks like it's going to be a fun movie.
It's one of my favorite movies. I feel like people either love it or hate it. I think you'll have a good time.
Yeah. All right. So basically, just to recap, guys. So our next episode will hopefully be on April 1st or around then, and basically we're just going to be recapping like what we thought about the movies we discussed today, but with the other person's perspective. And then we'll also have some new movies to talk about. So I hope you guys look forward to that.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Double Take.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye bye.